Hello and welcome to another LeetCode video. Today we're going to be doing the next problem in the JavaScript challenge, and it's going to be 2627 debounce. So given a function fn and in time milliseconds, return a debounce version of that function. A debounce function is a function whose execution is delayed by t milliseconds and whose execution is cancelled if it is called again within that window of time. The debounce function should also receive the passed parameters, and so they have some examples. So if you're given t equals 50, the function was called at 30, 60, and 100. The first two function calls would be canceled because if you call at 30 and then you call again at 60, this first one would have to execute at 80, so it would be canceled. And then when you call again at 60 and you call again at 100, this second one would be called at 110, so that would be canceled. And so the only one that would run would be at 100, and then it would finally be executed at 150. And so then to have another example where if instead t is 35, the first call would be canceled, the second call would be executed, and the third call would be executed as well. Because now you need less time, right? So this one would be canceled, this one would be executed at 95, and then this one would get executed at 135. Okay, so they have some examples, and let's just actually draw these examples on a number line just to illustrate what they're doing. Okay, so let's take a look. So the first function is going to be called at 50 seconds. And then there's going to be one that's called at 75. And then let's draw a 100 and a 125. Okay, so when the first one is called at 50, it actually needs 50 seconds to run. So it's going to be called here, but it's going to run right here. Then the second one is called at 75. But because this function hasn't ran yet, it's going to cancel it. So actually when this is called at 75, now this will get canceled, so it'll never run. And then finally this function will run at 125. So the only execution you actually have is here, of function 2. Okay, and so that's what they're saying. The first call is canceled, and the second call is delayed by 50 ms and executed at 125. Okay, now let's actually go to example 2. So we have a function that starts at 50, and it will execute at 70. So it's going to start at 50, it's going to execute at 70, right around here. And then another one that starts at 100 and executes at 120 because it takes 20 seconds. So you can see there's no overlap here, so both of these will execute. So one will execute here and one will execute here. And so they are both called. So one's delayed until 70, one's delayed until 120. Okay, let's go to example 3. So here we have the time to run the function is 150 seconds. So we're going to need like a bigger number line, I guess. Let me redraw this. So let's just say we have intervals of maybe like 100, be better. Yeah. Let's say 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500. Okay. So the first function is called at 50. And it needs 150 to run. So it'll be called at 50 and it will run at 200. Then the second function is called at 300 and it will run at 450. And then the third function is called at 300 as well. So because it's called when something else is running, it's going to cancel that. So right when this is called, this is going to get canceled. And then the third function will run at 450 as well. And so you're going to have this one function run at 200, and then another function run at 450. And so that's what happens. Second call is canceled because the third call cancels it. So essentially, whenever you call a function, when something is waiting to still go, like the way we're going to do this is we're going to use setTimeout, and we're going to say, you know, when you enter a function, let's just call setTimeout on that function. And essentially, what we're going to be doing is, if something is waiting to go, and then something else is passed in, then we're going to cancel that. And so the way that's going to work is pretty straightforward. So the way setTimeout works is, I've talked about it a lot, right? Is you are executing a function after some amount of time, but setTimeout also returns a value. So the way we can stop that setTimeout from executing is we can actually have that setTimeout return a value, and then we can just clear the timeout if there's something there. So it's pretty straightforward how this is going to work. So we can just have a variable. We can just use a closure here. So we can say like let check equals null, and this check is going to be, you know, if something is running. And then we can just say if check So if there is something to clear, right, then we're going to clear timeout of that check. And so if there is some previous function that's running, let's do clear timeout. And the nice thing is, if you call clear timeout on a variable that's returned from a setTimeout, and it's already finished, like you can't clear a timeout that's already done, right? And so you don't need to like reset this check variable. Honestly, I don't even know if you need this check. I think you can run check on clear timeout on anything. We can try this. Like I think if you run clear timeout on null, it just won't do anything, but it's not going to give you an error. But we can try it out. Okay, and so now that we cleared some other function that was going, now we have to reset our check to what we're going to be executing in the future, right? So we're going to say check equals setTimeout, and then setTimeout, remember, takes a function. So let's give it a function that takes no arguments, and then all we need to do is call function fn on the args that were actually given here, right? And then we need to delay that function's execution by t seconds. And so essentially what's going to happen is if you walk through step by step here, like let's go for this first problem, you enter something at 50, and then you say, let's clear timeout of the check. Check is null, so you're not really going to clear anything. And then you're going to say, let's set timeout 50 seconds of this function's execution, and let's set the check equal to that. So then if something is called before this is executed, we're going to cancel the previous timeout. And if the timeout has already been ran, when you clear timeout something that's already been ran, I don't think there's an issue there, right? It's already ran. It doesn't matter if you clear it because it's already done. Okay, so let's actually try that. Let's see if we do have a problem with this null. I don't think we should, yeah. So you can clear timeout of whatever you want. Like if it doesn't exist, it's fine. Okay. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. It's pretty straightforward function compared to some other stuff that we had to ran recently, but yeah. Essentially, once again, what we're doing is we are clearing the timeout of something that is scheduled to run. And if it ran already, it doesn't really matter that we call this because it's already done. And then once we do clear the timeout of something that's scheduled to run, now we set the timeout of the thing that we're currently running, and we have to set it equal to check, because when you do a clear timeout needs this check value to clear the set timeout that was called. Just like a set interval and all of these things need a value. But yeah, that's going to be it for this problem. Hopefully you liked it. And if you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.